Chesil, a huge place of tiny secrets. Chesil Beach is unique and unforgettable, a place of extremes. A huge bank of 180 billion pebbles stretching from the Isle of Portland for 18 miles west along Dorset's coast. It was created at the end of the last ice age when sand, gravel and mud were driven inland to form the first Chesil Beach. Later, thousands of tons of rocks were washed eastwards and reduced to pebbles by the relentless power of the sea. Trapped behind Chesil Beach is the Fleet Lagoon, one of the largest and most wildlife-rich in the country. Chesil Beach is an ever-changing landscape. From the wild storms of winter to the spectacular summer sunsets. And the wildlife follows the changing seasons too. In autumn, migrating birds gather, feeding up for long journeys south. Portland is a good setting-off point for France, the Mediterranean and Africa beyond. Meanwhile, other birds start to arrive from northern breeding grounds to spend winter here. Brent geese arrive in their thousands, fleeing the cold winter of Arctic Russia to feed on the seagrass growing in the Fleet Lagoon. Brent geese live on average for 20 years and will make this 2,500-mile journey many times in their lifetime. They travel as families to teach the youngsters the route. Wading birds also arrive in the autumn, feasting at low tide on the abundant worms and shellfish in the mudflats of the lagoon. Godwits arrive from the north, together with dunlin, curlew, knot and sanderling. Each bird has adapted to take a different slice of the food pie, according to their size and the shape of their bill. The large, curved beak of the curlew is very sensitive and can reach right down to their favourite food, lugworms. At low tide, lugworm casts and the breathing holes from their U-shaped homes can be seen right across the lagoon. The smaller dunlin and ringed plover must feed almost continuously just to keep alive, especially during the shorter days of autumn. In winter, Chesil is often the scene of dramatic storms. It can be battered for days on end. The beach directly faces the English Channel and takes the full force of the southwesterlies blowing straight in from the Atlantic. Very occasionally, high water levels cut off the road connecting Portland with the mainland. Once the storm passes, all manner of exciting finds can be made along the shoreline, like cuttlefish bones, mermaids' purses and whelk egg cases. Sadly too, there is huge evidence of man's throwaway culture and the pollution across the world's oceans. The Fleet Lagoon is tidal, connected to the sea only by a narrow channel under ferry bridge. Red-breasted mergansers and golden-eyes are diving ducks and join the cormorants catching fish. Grebes fish here too, and in rough weather razorbills and guillemots can be seen. Working their way round the shoreline are herons and little egrets. "50 years ago, an egret in Britain was rare, but they have since successfully colonised many parts of the country." Turnstones pick their way along the shoreline pebbles. The tortoiseshell plumage gives them perfect camouflage. Their strong necks help them flick over largest stones to uncover insects. And they will often come close without being noticed. The boldly coloured oystercatcher eats cockles, mussels and earthworms, but rarely, if ever, oysters. It can extract a cockle from its shell in about 70 seconds and may eat 500 in one day. And on the Fleet, teal, widgeon and pochard ducks congregate, biding their time, keeping safe and well fed, waiting for the most important season of all to begin. Spring is the point in the year when everything bursts into life. Time for breeding, for growth and regeneration. Time too for Chesil Beach to show off its new clothes. Chesil is not an easy place for plants to survive. Exposed to strong, salt-laden winds, it has no fresh water, few nutrients and little shelter. Some plants are specially adapted to thrive in these harsh conditions. Each plant has its own distinctive place. Glasswort colonizes the silty shoreline, happy to be covered by tides twice each day. It has a fleshy, succulent structure to store fresh water. Higher up the shoreline is a band of sea purslane and scrubby sea blight. Unspectacular to look at, these plants provide vital cover for birds and insects throughout the breeding season. Thrift begins to show itself, covering parts of the beach with its beautiful pink flower heads. This spectacular carpet is one of Chesil's finest moments. Amongst the thrift there are many other flower species. Tiny biting stonecrop, sea campion, yellow rattle, rest harrow, and cranesbill. Living here and across the road at Ham Common are many of the original ancestors of our vegetable garden. Sea radish, sea beet, sea carrot, and so to summer. Terns arrive from Africa, great flyers that plunge dive to catch fish. Some birds nest and rear their young on this bare pebble beach. The tiny little tern is one of Britain's rarest breeding seabirds and lays 1 to 3 eggs directly onto the pebbles. By August, the newly fledged chicks are ready to fly thousands of miles back to West Africa. These nests are very vulnerable to predation by crows, ravens, foxes, kestrels and gulls. Chesil attracts some unexpected inhabitants. The brown hare lives here all the year round, very different from their normal downland habitat. Deer, foxes and hedgehogs are also occasionally seen on the beach. Summer is a good time for insects. Bees, wasps and butterflies are easily found. The magnificent salt beetle lives in the tidal zone. These come up for air when the tide is out and retreat underground to seal up the neck of their wine bottle-shaped burrow when the tide comes in. People love this place. In what at first appears to be a lonely wilderness, there is so much life and living. Whenever you visit, there will always be something new, a different experience, a new wildlife encounter. So keep coming back, why don't you?